Every week I take a question from the fleet for a segment I call
Questions from the Fleet.
It's Sunday and it's time for a little questions from the fleet. And this Sunday I'm going to rapid fire some questions I've gotten from the fleet in the past week. Here we go. First question comes from Jared Imholes. He asks favorite light beer, wine type, and go-to liquor. My favorite light beer, if I'm doing a light beer, if I'm doing like a marathon beer, is Miller Lite. But if I had the choice, I would rather have like a Goza than what you would typically call a light beer. Anyway, favorite wine type, I usually just like red. And my go-to liquor is scotch or whiskey. The next question comes from Mr. Psychotic. If there was one thing you could change in each trilogy, what would it be? For the prequels, I would probably say keeping Maul around. I think he would be a fun adversary through the entirety of that trilogy. When it comes to the original trilogy, I would probably change Return of the Jedi, the whole concept of a second Death Star. It feels a little unimaginative to me, and I wish maybe that was different, you know? For the sequel trilogy, I would like a little bit more context for certain characters like Snoke, for example. And the thing is, you know, Star Wars has a history of having details and context layered on after we see something, right? So all that stuff is coming down the pike. The fact that we don't have it now, it doesn't bother me because, you know, our modern heroes aren't really familiar with those characters, so we don't really know too much about those characters either. And like I said, a lot of context in Star Wars always comes years later, decades later even, than after we initially saw the thing. Anyway, Logan Walker asks, if I can meet one character from Star Wars in real life, who would it be? Chewbacca. Maybe Yoda. I'm gonna say Chewbacca. The next question comes from Tan Production. If you could change one single thing about Star Wars, what would it be? Oh, God. I don't know. I think for me, Star Wars has always been about feeling rather than hyper detail. It seems like a lot of people like Star Wars for the hyper detail of it. They want to know how everything works, how everything came to be, who built this, who built that, what color's Yoda's blood, that kind of stuff. You know, it's fun, but I'm about feeling. So I actually wish a lot of the hyper detail of the Star Wars universe, at least what you would find on Wikipedia or things that sometimes feel very fanfiction-y. And while there is a place for them, certain fans love that kind of stuff, it does nothing for me. And sometimes it detracts from the mystery of things. So I wish there was a little more mystery involved with a lot of things and not everything needed to be explained. I guess that's not directly answering your question because it's not something that I would change in Star Wars, but that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. Caleb Kemp and Took17 ask the same question here. How popular would Star Wars be if there was no John Williams score? How popular would it be without John Williams? I think, honestly, I think it would just be, you know, another run-of-the-mill science fiction movie from the 70s. That being said, I mean, it was light years ahead when it came to visual effects and all that kind of stuff, but without John Williams' music, I mean, imagine if it was just, you know, your typical ambient, like 70s sci-fi weird, just out there music. It would suck ass, right? It's the orchestra, it's John Williams' orchestra that gives it that punch. It's about that feeling, like I said earlier, right? Star Wars for me is about feeling rather than hyper detail. And the music, man, the music, Mr. John Williams puts that feeling in there. Without that, it would be stale and just a run-of-the-mill movie. I truly believe that so much of the success of Star Wars is owed to the music, the cadence of the music, punching up every scene, you know. I definitely don't think it would be as popular. And without the score, I mean, who knows where Star Wars would be from the initial get-go? Who knows if it would have ever turned into something so big and grand and that lives on for decades, you know? Anyway, the next question comes from DJ Kinto. What are your hopes and concerns about Feige's Star Wars project? Do you think it'll even get off the ground now that he basically runs all of Marvel, including publishing? Yeah, a lot of this is up in the air, right? A lot of it is so early on in concept and idea and news that I almost don't even care to bring it up. Like, you guys haven't seen me make a news video about Feige, right? You haven't seen me make a news video about certain things that are so far away in terms of execution and even information. So obviously I'm hopeful, right? Obviously I want fun Star Wars movies, and obviously he would probably deliver fun Star Wars movies, right? That being said, a lot of the Marvel stuff has become formulaic to me. I kind of like the idea of Star Wars pushing the boundaries and not... I would take A Last Jedi over many of the Marvel movies that I've seen any day, because most of the Marvel movies that I've seen, like I said, are formulaic and just kind of run-of-the-mill, and they kind of blend together for me. So I would rather have movies that kind of push the boundaries of what the genre or the franchise will accept and can do, than have a series of films that just start feeling like you're kind of floating down a stream in a river full of the same shit. Anyway, guys, that's this week's questions from the fleet. As always, thank you guys so much for the support. The HelloGreedo channel lives because of you all. Once again, thank you so much to the fleet members. Thank you so much, shipmates, and I will catch you all on the flip side.